And sure, you can't see.
Hi, I'm Dr. Cindy Dupuy. I have a PhD in learning disabilities. I do diagnostic assessment, advocacy, and a little bit of intervention. I'm also an adult with dyslexia and dysgraphia.
Hi, my name is Kim Sharman. I've been working with kids with dyslexia, dysgraphia, ADHD for, I don't know, 15, 20 years. And I have ADHD myself. Can you tell? Yeah.
It's cracked me up, Kim.
Okay.
Half the fun. All right, so we are going to talk today about what we do with kids who have dysgraphia that have writer's block. Okay, so let's talk about what writer's block looks like. What do you see writer's block looks like?
Oh, I have learned through the years, and I feel guilty when I didn't know what I was doing a long time ago, but they literally sit and stare at the computer and stare at the keyboard for hours. Their parents come in and yell at them and say, "You're just being lazy."
Anything.
And it kills me when parents say you're just being lazy. They're not being lazy. They literally are frozen, and
Yes.
they are frozen, and it's not intentional, and it's not laziness, and it's horrible.
We actually did a little presentation on dysgraphia, and we give you an exercise in that video. So if you haven't seen that, go back and take a look at that. So that's physical characteristics. What do you see on the page?
On the page, things can be very stilted and without,
Short.
yeah, short, without voice, without
It's
I
almost
mean,
robotic. I
yeah,
saw
almost
the
robotic.
dog. The dog ran. It
and
was
and these
fine.
are these are very creative, lovely, wonderful,
Can be. Yeah.
but yeah, but it's not intentional. They really don't know. They cannot make their brain connect with their fingers. Now when they speak, I scream, because I always talk about that story about, I can't remember what it's called, but when I said you're spitting up diamonds, and I joke around and I catch what's coming out of their mouth, and I quickly write it down on paper. I said, you just spit out a diamond.
Yes.
They can say it, but they can't make it come out of their fingers sometimes.
Yes. Now, their handwriting will look unique, is the way I term it. Like you can't always tell what letter they intended to produce. So, for example,
Hey,
I had a kid,
that's not always true though, Cindy,
not
too.
always true, but
No.
these are
Sometimes they have beautiful
characteristics.
handwriting, but sometimes mostly not.
I had a student that was a T.
Ugh.
Okay. I have students that is both an O and a C, right? Like they
Yeah.
don't close it up, right?
Yeah.
So we have inconsistent handwriting, right?
Right.
What else do we see in terms of the written production?
I worked with a wonderful girl last week, and the sentence structure, like, I knew what she wanted to say, and her analysis was fantastic, but the sentence, what is it? Cohesiveness and coherence, it was all mixed up, and she wasn't conveying what she meant.
Right. So having a hard time getting what's in here out through your hand, that's kind of the diagnosis of dysgraphia. And so you can have unusual syntactic structures. You can lack transitional ties when you go to write a paragraph. And transitional ties can be anything from I'm linking to the next paragraph to I'm linking between two sentences. Joe hit Sam. This happened because this happened because would be a transitional tie. That's kind of an obvious one. Another transitional tie would be Joe hit Bob. However, however becomes a transitional tie.
Is that called cohesion?
That's that linking or sticking them together is cohesion.
Okay.
Coherence is does it make sense to the reader?
Okay, coherence is, does it make sense to the reader? Is it telling a story, a logical story? And cohesion
Is do my ideas link together so that I can follow what's actually they're intertwined. Okay.
yeah, I get them confused sometimes.
Yeah. So coherence is does it make sense? Do I have a sense of the audience that's reading it? Or do my ideas skip around randomly? Or Do they kind of flow and there's logic and somebody can follow what's happening in there? And cohesion is, am I creating connections between the materials so that if somebody reads and you're changing what you're saying, you're giving a signal to your lazy reader, hey,
Right.
I was talking about this, but now I'm going to talk about this. And we've done that activity where I write two silly sentences like, the rocket shot to the moon, the elephant ate a banana, and create a transitional tie between the two. And the rocket shot to the moon, just then the zookeeper put the food out and the elephant ate the banana. You've just created a transitional tie, right? Um, so those are high level examples. What's another couple low level examples? You remember handwriting, spelling, mechanics, grammar, cohesion, coherence.
Yeah, all of those things.
Let's talk about spelling, the bane of my existence.
So spelling, what people don't, people really, and the schools really, I shouldn't say this, but they really don't understand dysgraphia. They think it has to do with just penmanship. The spelling issues and the penmanship issues are constantly disrupting the ability for these great thoughts to get out on paper. I don't care if you're typing it, I don't care if you're writing it by hand. It is constantly disrupting it. And so I encourage my dysgraphic students. I know people disagree with this, but I want them to get their ideas out, their brilliant ideas. Then I'm going to go help them correct all that stuff. But if they're self-editing, they physically can't even write it because they're criticizing themselves because they know something's wrong, right?
Right, right.
So
Um,
just
I frequently choose simpler words. I don't do it so much now because I can figure out how to get close enough with spell check or I'll dictate it. But I will choose simpler words that I can easily spell rather than sit there and fight through to try and come up with the correct spelling for a word. I mean, I tell people that, it's really hard to find igloo under E in the dictionary, which is what my father always yelled at me to do. Go look it up. And it's like,
so
I'm
parents need to
looking, it's
understand.
not anywhere in here.
And then people think, oh, I don't need to learn how to spell. The computer will fix it. The computer will not fix it if it is not phonetically even close.
Right,
And you'd be surprised how many things the computer misinterprets and creates
right.
words.
And so what I do when I'm dictating for a particular word that can be misunderstood for another more common word is I will dictate a phrase to give the computer context for that target word.
You put the phrase after the word or before the word?
No. So like if the word were precipitated, right? I would say the event precipitated or something to that effect. So I would give context so that the computer will recognize which word I'm going for.
So you give it the smarts to pick the right word.
Right. I will also tell you, Google is the best spell check anywhere. So
Really?
if you type in how you think a word is spelled into Google, 9 times out of 10, and if it's a really bizarre spelling, it will come up with the correct spelling of it. It will recognize what you're trying to say. And if you're in that 1 out of 10 times it doesn't, again, you add context and then it will come up with the correct spelling in a way that Microsoft Word or other, Google Docs, whatever, doesn't have that same creative sensitivity that Googling does.
So the programming is different.
Yes, I think Google is catching errors that people make every day in search engines and recognizing the pattern of it, and it can figure it out easier. So if I can't get Word or in email, if it won't come up, I will actually Google my phonetic spelling of the word, as bizarre as it can be. I'm sure you would like have a heart attack when you saw me do it, but I can get the correct spelling out.
You go out to Google from Word and then come
Yes.
back in. Are you kidding me?
No.
Okay. So should we talk about like even the first step of how to unblock a
Yes.
writer?
Yes. Oh, wait, let's do one thing really quickly.
All right.
Mechanics. They
Yeah.
will forget to put in capitalization and punctuation. We overload working memory. They're trying to juggle all 6 things. Something's got to fall out. They forget to capitalize. They forget to use punctuation. Super common in dysgraphia. It does not mean that they don't care. It means that they don't have resources left to put that element in on top of how do I spell it, on top of how do I remember my ideas, on top of how do I put it in a syntactically expressive sentence, the whole 9 yards.
Remember what
Yeah.
you taught me. Okay, so these 6 things, let's say it
Yes.
again, all must be done simultaneously. And this is hard as hard. What is the thing you told me about? This is hard
Like
to see.
juggling. How many things
No,
can
but
you juggle?
you told me there was a medical thing, like it's being able to see things in it's just more difficult for the brain than you didn't tell me this. I just know it's very difficult for the brain to simultaneously do everything perfectly.
Right. So let's run them off. It's handwriting, spelling, mechanics, which is capitalization and punctuation, grammar. Is it a syntactically correct sentence? Did I use correct grammar? Did I use the correct verb form, et cetera, et cetera? Cohesion and coherence, which we've kind of already killed. I guess we
Okay,
put down the other 4 fingers
all
because
at the same time.
all going simultaneously.
Uh-huh.
And you crash the system. It's like an old computer. When you had too many computer programs up and running, the computer would like lose it and like shut down.
And can we add ADHD to it? Let's
You
talk
add
about.
ADHD to it, and like you have other things that are telling you that are more important or other exciting, and you can't filter out the stimulus. And how do you then get anything on the page?
It'd be like you writing with the opposite hand, me writing with my left hand instead of my right, and then that's dysgraphia. And then you add ADHD to it, and somebody's throwing big rubber balls at my head while I'm trying to write with my left hand. How would you feel? And what kind of product would you create? That's
Right.
what it feels like to have dysgraphia,
And
Karen,
ADHD.
and ADHD. Please understand that.
All
Doesn't
right.
mean you can't do it, but
All
that's
right.
what.
So let's talk about strategies.
Yes,
What's the first one you and I always do?
brainstorming.
What does brainstorming mean?
Let the brain be free and just spit
Blech.
out, spit it out. Say,
Barf out ideas.
and I ask good questions. You ask good questions that help inspire the kid to get out these ideas. And a lot of times when they're spitting the stuff out, it's bits of genius.
It's the genius, that's the gems you were talking about, right?
Yep.
So I will tell parents, especially if kids are writing on higher level topics for high school. Let's say they're writing an analysis and history of 2 events, right? I will say, take your phone or other recording device, hit record, and have a conversation about it. And your job is to ask the kid tons of questions and have them talk about what all it is. And they can do the analysis of what they're trying to say in that conversation. And your job is not to instruct in the conversation. Your job is to ask good questions in the conversation. Why do you think that? How did you reach that conclusion? What do you mean by that? How is that linked to that other thing? Why does this all go together? Could it be, are there any other explanations? All of those are great, juicy questions that let kids explore and expand. And if they say, I don't know, and they keep saying, I don't know, then you need to say, all right, we need to stop. We need to go back and we need to learn more about this so that you're ready. Because they're not there yet. If they can't answer those kinds of questions, they haven't done the fact finding that they need to be able to write on it.
And you're doing this, and they don't, a lot of times if they see me typing, they start to get paranoid and it stops them. But if you have it on your phone, it's voice to text, right?
You can do it that way, yeah. So like Notability has a transcription feature built in. It's a note-taking software. I use it all the time. You can just record it and transcribe it. You can do all sorts of creative things. The idea is if you're the parent and you're listening to it, and your kid is saying it while the recorder is running, you're gonna go back and you're gonna transcribe the big ideas. And if there's truly a beautiful sentence in there, you transcribe the beautiful sentence and you preserve that. Because I will often throw out a beautiful description of something or something to say in an email and it comes out perfectly. And Kim's like, wait, I don't have my pen. I want to write that down.
Yeah. I mean, I literally am like struggling to remember every word she said. This happens all the time.
Not that profound, but
yeah, it is profound. And people don't even realize by letting the brain say what it wants to say,
so much easier.
it's it's incredible.
So
Yeah,
let's
that
talk
was
about then. All right, so we've got a kid and they're like, I have no ideas and I can't talk about this. So then we go back and we look at pictures and we read to kids and we watch videos and we build the background knowledge so that
yes,
we have a place to then jump off of, right? So let's take a simple topic that a kid might write on a dog. Well, my dog is my favorite breed. What's that breed? Oh, I don't know. All right, well, let's go look that up and let's find out what is characteristic of the Chinese crested dog, the one that's all cute with the little feathery things there over my shoulder here. What makes the Chinese crested really interesting? Well, they don't have a ton of hair on them. Their tail looks kind of funky. You know, you would pick up all of those characteristics and you would talk about them and having a picture there so that you're looking at the picture as you're writing the description. We also do the infamous generate a word list.
yes. But I have to say one thing
Oh,
I've learned.
wait, explain what generate the word list means
Oh,
before
I'm
we
sorry.
transition.
Generating a word list about the particular topic. Like if it's the
Right.
Civil War, like what are all these, what were the precursors to the Civil War in the America,
Right.
whatever.
So let's say we were doing Chinese crested. I'm
Oh,
pointing at
sorry, going
Chinese
back to the
crested on
doggy.
my thing.
Yeah, I
So we
don't know
would
about this dog.
say fluffy ears. We would say soft skin. We would say weird tails, socks, gray, white, brown.
I would say,
Um,
why do they not have hair? Like, what was there a
yeah,
purpose? What was their how were they bred? What were they
right.
bred for?
So breed, characteristics, all of those kinds of things. And so you write down all of those rich words, right? And the kid is writing down their words and you're not worrying about spelling.
Right.
Okay. So I, as the adult, am writing all of the words I can think of. The kid is writing all the words they can think of. Then we read the list to each other. And as the kid is reading me their list, I write out their words with the correct spelling.
Mhm.
Then I read them my list. And then they get both lists and they say, now let's write our paragraph.
Wow. And then you have all the correct spelling.
And you
It's
have
already done for them, and they can write their stuff.
all the heavy lifting has been handed to them. So that's great for younger kids.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So older kids, what were you going to say?
They come here have to answer all these historical questions. And oftentimes in school, it is assumed that they understand what came before the particular incident. And the teachers don't really go into what happened before World War II that caused it to happen. So I have to teach them. I said, do you even understand why World War II happened? And they don't. So one of the things this one child taught me was this little thing called Oversimplified, and there are these short little very funny quick cartoons on YouTube that give historical reference of what came before an event and what came after event. And I look at that Oversimplified. I look at history.com. I look at biography.com. I we
Wiki, like there's lots of places you can go to get good summaries.
Yeah, pictures. And once you give them that bucket of information and it's their head, then you can't write about something if you don't, it becomes very surface if you don't understand
Right.
the historical background. And it happens all the time.
I find kids that read The Great Gatsby don't know what it looked like. So
Nope.
to pull up what women were dressed as, to pull up samples of music, to pull up the dance, to pull up what the country looked like at that time helps them totally get a new view on
Yeah.
what the book is about, right? And so it's making sure that there is a ton of ideas there and some of the ideas just get tossed off to the side because other ones become more central. Okay, so this is going to be a long video, bear with us. So we've generated a word list or we've created an idea bank, and then the kid is still sitting there going, I don't know what to write. What's the next thing that I will frequently do? Do you know?
Yeah.
Instead of writing the topic sentence, we write the body.
Yeah. Oh, you
We
don't.
write the body of the paragraph because topic sentences are really hard for kids to write. How do I summarize what I haven't even written yet?
So you're not writing a thesis, you're writing a topic sentence.
A topic sentence or the thesis, right? Like the thesis, you don't have to have it perfected. You can have a general idea of where you're going, and then you write the body of it, and then you come back and you clean up the thesis.
Well, sometimes you create a new thesis based on what you write.
Right. And
Body.
then the conclusion is always the hardest to write because you're summarizing, but you're saying it in a different way and you're referring to what you wrote about, right? So I've introduced what I'm going to say. I'm going to tell you, and then I'm going to summarize what I told you. And
Mhm.
so I help them. So one of the common things I will do, which drives many of my students nuts, is I will model a sentence. And so I will say, for example, the oh, the causes of issues in writing relate to I'm not coming up with a great thesis right now, but you get the idea. I will model a thesis and I
Uh-huh.
will say, now you've got an idea. Here's what it looks
Oh,
like.
you
Those
rewrite it.
words are mine.
Uh-huh.
Now you make one that's yours.
You give them scaffolding, but then
I
they have to
give
create
them
their own
scaffolding.
building.
So it's there as a framework so that they can springboard off. And when I do this, what happens, and I will say to kids, do you want me to throw in my phrase or not? And they're like, no, 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 I don't want it because you're going to steal my good words. And I'm like, all right, I'm done, right? Now you're ready to dig in there and find those words. And if they're really stuck, we'll go to a thesaurus and I will help them generate around it. Or at that point, when I know they're ready for that, I will phrase it in a weird way to get them there, but not have it be perfect, and they'll be able to tweak and modify it.
I
Uh,
mean, they just want to feel proud that they can put out. I mean, it's not going to be perfect the first time, and a lot of kids don't realize. I mean, it's torture for them sometimes to write, but it does take editing, and that's the very last step, which
okay,
is
but we've also jumped over a really important thing, which is you as a parent can scribe, meaning your kid
yes,
is saying, and you're doing this, and they get to talk it out, and we're taking away the spelling, we're taking away the handwriting, we're taking away the mechanics, right? So they're focused on grammar, cohesion, coherence.
and yes, you can do this in middle school and high school for them to help them.
100%. And
Hundred
it's not
percent.
cheating.
No.
An accommodation, just like an elevator is in a
Yes.
in a building, so that somebody can get up and down if they have a broken leg, right? So that's still the child's words, and you
Yes.
put their words down. You can
Yes.
go back and read what they wrote and ask them, does that sound right? You can help them edit and tweak,
Yes.
and it is okay.
It
So
is.
let's talk about editing now.
Oh boy. That's one of the trickiest things, but I'm getting, yeah, it's tricky because you
Why
don't
is
want to.
it tricky? Because most kids are, I just did this
I don't
horrific,
want to do anymore. I'm done.
exhausting, right?
Right. I'm done.
So my comment is we don't edit on the same day that we draft.
No, they need new energy.
Spread it out. That's
Yep.
why we start the writing process early,
Very early.
right? You and I we worked with one student who wrote a Macbeth, it's either Macbeth or Hamlet research paper. Beautifully done. We probably put 15 hours into that thing. But that student had an amazing final product, and it's truly their work. I
Mhm.
was the conduit of getting the words onto the page, but truly their work, and stunning,
Mhm.
and drive to go back and really craft it. It was amazing. And so, and this is one of the most dyslexic dysgraphic students I've ever tested. And that student is now this incredible, beautiful, amazing writer.
Yeah.
I don't believe that they're as good as they are, but they're really stunning. It's a lot of work, and I will acknowledge it's a lot of work, but they don't realize how actually good they are. We
Yeah.
talk about them having their isms, like uh,
Yes. It,
Bobisms. That's a Bobism, not that that's the kid's
he,
name.
he has great insight and beauty
I've
to
been
his
so
work.
good at not giving away gender, and you just gave it away, but that's okay.
Oh, I'm not
I
good
was
at that.
using they the entire time, but we're good.
I can't say they.
So we're all good. Um, so you can get kids, we can build these writing skills if we're supporting them in different ways. We take load off working memory by removing elements. if we outline or brainstorm and organize ideas, I don't want to get stuck on outlines. I think outlines are artificial in many ways and constraining instead of freeing. If we support kids and we take load off by taking things off, we can get really high level, beautiful, elegant writing that really conveys their depth, breadth of thought and energy and analysis that they put into it. It's truly their work. And we build these amazing writers that are going to do well the rest of their lives.
Yeah, they learn this.
And so don't like think creatively about how do I take load off and let your genius come out.
And that would be the main thing. Help to get their genius out.
And if somebody says, well, that's cheating, and the answer is, so what happens with somebody with cerebral palsy that can't type? What happens with somebody who is blind and can't read what's on the computer screen? You know, we read back, or we have the computer read back, or that person with cerebral palsy will use voice recognition, or, you know, somebody will read Braille. Whatever we need, we give people what they need. It is not cheating. And when you have severe dysgraphia, it is an incredibly limiting factor. So find ways to let the genius out.
And please know that if your kid is diagnosed with dysgraphia, most people don't understand the significance and the impact it has on them, both academically and their self-image.
Yeah.
And you really need to help correct that and make them realize they have the genius inside of them, and you need to just let it out by helping them.
And we're going to stop there because we've gone on really long. But
Bye.
let us know if you have questions or comments.